This is CBY, Christian Broadcasting of Yakima, your local Christian television station, bringing to our valley quality Christian programming for more than 40 years.
Hello and welcome to There's Hope. I'm Lenette Lindemann and I'm with Tracy Crowder. We're here with ImagePoint Mobile Medical Services to share a story of an incredible journey of hope to the Holy Land and back. ImagePoint began in 2012 by God Himself. He raised us up to be a frontline ministry to help abortion-driven women make choices for life for their pregnancies.
Yes.
And we did that. He gave us the vision of doing it by giving us a mobile medical unit and asking us to be as close to abortion providers as possible. Besides the mobile medical unit, he also gave us a very unique strategy in reaching women that are seeking out abortion through chemical means. Over half of all abortions today are done chemically. And God gave us, we're actually one of the most, a national leader in the antidote to stopping chemical abortion. And we've been raised up for that very purpose. That's one of our missions, is to help women reverse the effects of a chemical abortion. It's so much on God's heart, and the abortion industry is shifting so much to chemical now. Over 50% or almost 50% of all abortions are done chemically. God wanted ImagePoint to tell the world. And in telling the world and sharing with the world this message in the pro-life movement, he sent us to an international pro-life conference called L'Chaim that was held in Jerusalem, Israel. This was in November of this past year. And I wanted to take a few moments with you and just read a little bit about the conference and to share with you so you get a flavor of that. And then we're going to, Tracy and myself are going to share some testimony of how the conference impacted us. But ImagePoint was sent to tell the conference attendees there's hope to reverse chemical abortion.
Yes.
There's hope to save babies from the effects of chemical abortion. It's so new, the antidote and is so new that that's why he sent us. We're on the front line and he sent us with this message. There were actually 16 nations in attendance at the conference. The theme of the conference was Proverbs 24:11 and 12. Deliver those who are drawn toward death and hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter. If you say, surely we did not know this, does not he who weighs the hearts consider it? He who knows your soul, does he not know it? And will he not render to each person according to his deeds? The vision of the conference was to bring encouragement to all participants through worship and prayer, teaching, seminars and reports, fellowship and networking together to build one another up. The L'Chaim goal was to give glory to God and make everyone more effective warriors in the fight for life. Israel was chosen for the location because biblically it's where everything started and where everything will end. In order to focus on the most important issues of life and eternal life, there are so many parallels between Israel and the shedding of innocent blood that these two themes were intertwined often throughout the conference. Special sites in Jerusalem and Galilee were visited during the week-long event, with one of the more significant ones being the Valley of Hinnom, where the ancient Israelites sacrificed their children to idols. We grew in understanding as we connected past history with the present reality of sacrificing children in the womb by abortion in Israel and throughout the world. We actually went to the Valley of Hinnom, and there was a very special prayer service at that site. It was so moving to pray, where they actually, thousands of years earlier, sacrificed children to Molech in the fire. It was one of the, I would say, one of the most profound moments of the conference, was just standing on this ground and asking God to make it holy, to consecrate it to Him, to someday, bring to life all of these bodies, all of these precious little ones, and give them life when He comes back. We were sent to share about chemical abortion, reversal, and the antidote, and we had wonderful opportunity to share and exhort and encourage the individuals from all over. And these are pro-life leaders from all across the world that we were able to share with. We were very humbled. Honestly, it was a very humbling experience, because we were with some real giants of the pro-life movement from all across the world. And to be able to be sent with a word of encouragement by the Lord Himself was quite humbling. And yet, what came back was the ministry that we received. Yes, we went to share, but we received some incredible testimonies and vision of how these people from all around the world are dealing with abortion in their nation. And the first testimony we'd like to share is about Vanita Shah. She's from India, and Tracy that's, I think, the one that touched you the most.
She did. She had a lot of impact on me. Her saving testimony struck me first, and then her mission. So what happened in her saving testimony is that she's Hindu, and her father was quite ill, and had been quite ill for about, the last couple of years, is from what I remember her saying. And he was in hospice now. And at this point, there was no hope, and he was in a tremendous amount of pain and suffering. And all the family members were there. I mean, I don't know how many many from what I understood. And she said, just lifted her head and said, "Jesus, I don't know who you are, but I've heard of you. And so if you will just show yourself to me, and by helping my father, heal my father, I will serve you for the rest of my life," in a big capacity. And he was immediately healed and lived for 9 more years, healthy 9 more years. So that was a very big impact. But her mission is that she has a radio show there, and they're reaching about 50 million people in India. Her main mission is, growing up as a child, being a girl, she always felt like a lesser human being. And there is such a spirit of just against having girls, that there is genocide. It's called girl genocide, that they abort their girls. And so now the demographic with girls and boys is changing, and it's getting wider and wider, way more boys than girls. I guess that's why she impacted me the most, is that her mission is to reach, the nations, that this needs to stop. They say, this is one of the things that she said, just give us hell, but don't give us girl child. And that just broke my heart.
Yes.
That just broke my heart.
And the impact of sex selection abortion in these other nations was so real to us. We don't really have that in America as much.
No.
We're not faced with that. So that was a different demographic of how they're facing abortion and how they have to deal with it.
Yes.
And that radio program she's challenging the status quo and the mindset of Indians to not abort their girl child,
Yes.
their girl babies.
Yes.
So a very powerful woman,
Very powerful.
woman. And another one that impacted me is Dr.
Yes.
Jean Kega.
Amazing.
She's from Kenya, Africa. She said some amazing things that she said, first of all, Africans love babies. And it isn't in their nature to abort
Yeah.
at all. The abortion industry that has come into their nation of Kenya came from the outside. It came from Great Britain.
Yes.
And outside money is funding the killing of how she described of African babies. She said the biggest challenge for their nation, women are having abortions there because of absolute desperation of just meeting physical needs. They don't have housing. They don't have maybe formula. They don't have basic things that they feel they need to have this child. And so Dr. Jean and her team came up with a program called Rescue Coyote, and I'm probably not saying that correctly, but coyote means bird's nest. And they've created a little package of help and like a little bird's nest for the mother, the pregnant mother, and they're having tremendous success with this program. Beyond that, she asked us for prayer to pray against the British in particular, the United Kingdom. She said that the Prime Minister of Britain had just come to
Yes.
Kenya about 2 months before this conference. First time a British Prime Minister had ever visited since Margaret Thatcher, so that was, 30 years earlier. And what she brought in the visit was money to kill African babies. It was to fund abortion on demand in Kenya. Dr. Jean asked us for prayer, asked the whole conference for prayer against this money influence from Great Britain. And we went to prayer. That was a
Yes.
huge part of the conference, was praying internationally with these giants of the faith. On the last day of the conference, it was interesting. We had a declaration time that was about just the whole influence of the international abortion agenda. And there's this one group that's a ship that they have, women on the seas.
offshore.
It's offshore. And they're also, positioned off Kenya, and they actually ship chemical abortion into these nations. Well, there was something that had come up about that the very last day of the conference, and the Spirit of the Lord came over us, and we just made these emphatic declarations, and we were stomping our feet that the Lord is the checkmate. Jesus is the checkmate against abortion providers. Jesus is the checkmate. He has the answer. He is the one to put the stop. And at that time, at that day that happened, there was a very unusual occurrence in the earth. There was a wave that went out. It was right off the coast of Africa, kind of off of shore out of Kenya, a little bit south, off of an island, and it was underground, and it went across the whole world, this underground wave. And I believe that the Lord was answering us in a very dramatic fashion.
Yes.
My innocent blood was shed, and I understand the cry. I hear the cry of the innocent blood rising from the ground. The Lord himself was very powerfully moving. Well, it was just a couple of weeks after that. We all got back home. We were all home from the trip. And the report out of Kenya came. The nation of Kenya evicted the United Kingdom abortion provider. They completely rejected the money.
We don't want your money. We want to keep our babies. Africans do not want to kill their babies. They want to keep their babies. They don't want their money.
Yes. So it's very, very profound move of God in the leadership of a nation that we had gone to prayer for, at this conference specifically against the outside influence of abortion interests worldwide.
Yeah.
And Jesus got the victory. Jesus got the victory in a big way, and we just are so praising the Lord, and to be able to report that there's hope. There's hope through prayer. There's hope through standing in the gap. There's hope through our declarations. Even we were stomping our foot. We were so determined that this was going to be overturned and evicted, and because of the heart of the African women. They are not intent. This is not what they want. They want to have their baby. She said, I can still see Dr. Jean in her beautiful African wardrobe and saying, we love children. We love children in Africa, in Kenya. It's very profound.
Yes, it was.
And the final part of what we'd like to share is something, personal about a memorial garden that they have a little outside of Jerusalem, and the impact of what this memorial garden had upon Tracy and myself. I'd also like to share just the name of the international conference again was called L'Chaim. L'Chaim. Tracy's the more expert on the proper Hebrew pronunciation, but Tracy, what does that mean? What does L'Chaim mean?
To life. Means life.
So, to life. Oftentimes
it's a toast. L'Chaim.
L'Chaim, to life.
To life.
And so this memorial garden was L'Chaim.
That's right. And it's called the Gardens of Life.
Okay. Is that the actual name? Okay, the Gardens of Life. So wonderful.
And we each got to plant a tree for any babies we either aborted or lost in miscarriage, and that was an amazing day and an amazing experience for me myself, because I had my first abortion when I was 16 years old, and you are told that it's just tissue, and you don't know how that's going to impact you until after that happens, and you carry that with you the rest of your life. And I just have never felt completely forgiven and for that act. And this was such a profound experience. And the Lord had given me a scripture that morning to name my child, to ask him, and he told me that it was up to me to name my children that are there. And so I did, and we sounded our shofars. The Lord impressed upon us that we should sound our shofars very softly over the trees that we planted for our children, and it was just a really beautiful experience, and I just felt like they had a name now, and I was forgiven, and I just felt like it was a huge burden off of me. It was a huge burden that I had carried with me for a number of years.
Yes.
There's hope.
There's hope.
There's hope.
Yes. There's hope for women and families
and men too.
Yes. For me, it was a generational thing. My mother is the one that had the abortion in my family many, many years ago, way before abortion ever became legal.
Yeah.
And it was just so moving to, again, a healing balm.
Yeah.
Because of just the presence of the Lord. There were so many tears being shed. To see the men in the conference, there was one man in particular, I believe he was from Hungary. I still remember him. He just stood kind of in front of my little spot where I had put my tree. And there were several other men and just wanting to come up and, can we pray for you? And he kept saying, no, I just want to be alone in this moment right now. And, he never really, know what his story was.
No.
He never really shared. But to see how the Lord ministered to so many women and men in that memorial garden of life was, I don't know, that was
a bit forgotten.
Yes.
Men are a bit forgotten in abortion because of that they are, how they are impacted by it as well.
Yes.
They
Yes.
are the forgotten
They're,
few.
they're the forgotten few. Tracy, if I had to reflect back on one thing that impacted us most on the trip, first of all, I would have to say that God chose us from little tiny Yakima to actually send us on the trip. That was extremely impactful as we were rubbing shoulders with some of these pro-life leaders across the world.
Yeah.
I often, almost daily, would say, Lord, really, I can't believe that you sent us here. It's such an honor. What a privilege. Little tiny Yakima to represent into this international pro-life
Yeah, I agree.
conclave.
It was very humbling.
It was so humbling, and I believe that it was because, now looking back, Image Point has the abortion pill reversal in oral form.
When all of these nations that do already have the antidote is all in a shot form, and so they need a doctor or a nurse or,
Yes.
to administer it. Where we, little Yakima, 24/7, can be reached, on our little hotline to give the antidote right when it's needed.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's just in a pill form, super easy.
Super easy, super low cost, super practical. And for many of these nations where they're out on the field, there's no refrigeration necessary or
Yeah.
anything like that. It's just profound that was the message of hope, that there's hope, that they can stop chemical abortion
Yes.
in their nations as well, orally through a very powerful and effective antidote.
Yes.
So that was every day. I think the presence of, wow, Lord, I just am humbled. We're humbled that you picked us to come and be a part of this
Yes, that was
wonderful conference.
amazing.
But is there anything else, Tracy, that stood out to you in particular from the trip?
I would say there's a couple of things. Blowing the shofar at the Mount of Olives and just being a part of that little mission that we had, and at the Golden Gate, the sealed up gate on the Temple Mount. That was amazing. But for me personally, it was definitely at the Gardens of Life and naming two of my children, Stella and Samson.
I love it.
Never would have thought those names, but those are the names that dropped in my spirit as I was blowing the shofar over their little trees, And it was just, I wasn't sure about the Samson name. I thought, oh, that's just me being, spiritual. So I looked over and there's this beautiful sun ball just coming out from below the clouds. And I said, okay, Lord, I'll name him something that has to do with the sun. And so I went back when we got back to the room,
Yes.
I was like searching, and I said, well, I can't find anything. And then I looked up the name Samson, and it meant the sun. Only the Lord could do that, I just
Yes.
thought that was really special,
Yes.
That was really touching and so personal for me. I knew that the Lord was speaking to me about it then,
Yes.
It was really
Yes.
amazing.
For me, it was another one of the outdoor activities, and we were going down to the Dead Sea in a tour along with all
Yes.
of our companions in the conference. And as we were stepping onto the bus that morning, the Lord spoke to Tracy and I, you can't be tourists today. And it was kind of funny because here we were getting on the tour bus. And we were driving out of Jerusalem. It wasn't very long in that drive that someone, they have the microphones on these big, beautiful conference buses, and someone grabbed the mic and began to exhort us that for the ultimate Dead Sea experience,
Yeah.
you needed to mud up. And she went on to describe taking the sediment, the muddy sediment, which is full of all these wonderful chemicals and oil and rejuvenation, that you mud up, you take it, you literally coat it up head to toe over your swimsuit, and then you float in the water. And when you wash it all off, then your skin is rejuvenating.
Yeah.
And the Lord just quietly spoke to Tracy and I.
Not for you.
Others may, you may not.
That's right.
It's not for you. I have something else in mind. We had no idea what it was. We got there at the site, and there's lots of sites along the Dead Sea you can go to. So the particular site we were at was camel rides, cosmetic counters, food vendors, and the whole
Yeah.
bunch. We had our shofars we had brought from America. We made our way down to the water's edge, away from everyone, quiet spot. We didn't know really at that point what God wanted us to do. We stepped into the water.
Yeah.
And that's when the Lord said, I want you to point your shofars down, sound over the water. And then very distinctly said, rename it. And so we basically declared, you are no longer called the Dead Sea.
Yes.
Your new name is the Sea of Abundant Life.
Ugh.
And that tied in for me with L'chaim, to life, abundant life. Jesus is abundant life. He's coming to bring abundant life. He will, when he rules and reigns on the earth, there won't be abortion. Nobody's going to kill their babies anymore. Nobody's going to destroy innocent human life. And we are, and I feel like it was a sign that he just prophetically had us to
Yes.
prophesy over that water and rename it based on John 10:10 in honor of him. And it's been a pleasure. There's hope, there's life. It's been a pleasure to be with you today in this program.
Yes.
There's hope. We bless you in the name of the Lord.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to ever step out. If God is calling you to do something so supernatural or so exciting, go with him. It'll change your life. We are so grateful we obeyed the Lord and went on this conference.
Yes.
Thank you, and God bless you.
God bless you.
Image Point was founded in January of 2012 with a very specific mission. We were given the goal of a new way of approaching abortion-minded women, and that was going to be in a mobile medical unit setting that was going to deploy as close to abortion-providing facilities as possible.
The mobile unit is where we service our patients. It is a toy hauler that's been converted into literally a medical facility. We have a bed, ultrasound, we have a waiting room, and an area where we do the intake information. God has placed us on the front lines, literally across the alleyway from Planned Parenthood. We're here to offer free services. We offer pregnancy testing, ultrasounds, STI testing, community referrals.
This is CBY, Christian Broadcasting of Yakima, your local Christian television station, bringing to our valley quality Christian programming for more than 40 years.